Hi, my name's Tom Lapille. I'm a Magic Internet strategy writer, and this is my zoo deck.
Alright, let's take a look.
Well, okay, the first thing I should say is this isn't really my zoo deck per se. The universe sort of handed it to me. It's won a bunch of PTQs. These are my physical cards, but it's not my list. Regardless, I guess we should probably talk about it. The thing that makes this deck possible is the ridiculous mana that this format gives us with Wooded Foothills, Bloodstained Mire, Windswept Heath. They can get any of these wonderful dual lands from Ravnica, which I will not say all 7 of the names, but I mean, you can just get any color you want. You can build the most ridiculous mana bases, and this is essentially as crazy as it gets for aggressive decks. So, with regard to mana at least. So we have a bunch of 1-drops with 14 because you want to hit one because this format's real fast and you need guys early. So I have 4 Kurdaves because Kurdape is huge. Only 2 Isamaru. Some lists play 3 of these, but yesterday I wasn't sure if that was right, and now I'm sure that it's wrong because he's really, really bad if your opponent's interested in like just also playing creatures and attacking you. It's just a bear. It's a very efficient bear, but you don't want that many, so I'm very happy with 2. In a lot of ways, it's a concession to how fast everything is. Like, you need a 2-power 1-drop against the combo deck, but yeah. And then Fnatic and Lavamancer, they're defaults, and they're good for a reason. Some people have been skimping on Lavamancer and playing only 3, and I think they're horribly, horribly wrong. So anyway, alright, so Gaddock Teague is a strange little card in that it's very inefficient in terms of like mana and power and all that kind of stuff. But it's really it's a very important concession to make against decks that play Lotus Blooms, basically. There are these combo decks out there that just turn 4, they're planning on doing something that's really expensive and huge and killing you. And most of those things cost more than 4 mana, or 4 or more mana, I should say. And Gaddock Teague stops them from doing that, which is sweet. So, I mean, that's why we have those. The 4th one's over in the sideboard, but yeah. And Tarmogoyf is just huge. It's default. I have green mana, so I'm Tarmogoyfing. Dark Confidant's surprisingly important because we don't have any card selection other than it. So games where it sticks are generally really easy. Even though it looks like we hurt ourselves a ton with 19 lands that hurt me, the Dark Confidants are just still really important. So you need cards, and I mean, I survived a mulligan to 4 2 rounds ago just because I had a turn 2 Dark Confidant, and that was good enough because he never died. So alright, so the spells we have are basically just the most efficient spells that I can possibly play with these 4 colors. Tribal Flames and Gaia's Might are turned on to super powered levels because I have a million different basic land types thanks to the lands. It's 5 damage for 1 and 2 mana is pretty awesome. Vindicate looks kind of out of place because it doesn't do a ton of damage, but once again, it's just one of the best cards we can play, and we've got the mana for it. And it saves you from real weird situations that normal decks couldn't. I mean, I've killed solitary confinements with it, and your Incinerate's not going to deal with that, so Lightning Helix, it's just the next best burn spell. And I often wonder if the deck would even be unplayable without it, just because of how much damage I do to myself with the lands and the Dark Confidants. That without that life gain, who knows if anything would work. So gaining the life is actually really important for this deck. Not so much for any random Lightning Helix deck, but for this deck, you really want 3 life a lot of the time. Alright, so the sideboard. I mentioned earlier how important he was against decks that are doing unfair things. Terminates are these, both Terminate and Ancient Grudge really continue I'm playing the best spells I possibly can thing. In matchups like the Mirror or against Doran, Terminates and I have the mana X, so I'm playing Terminate. Ancient Grudge looks like it's against Affinity, but it's really a very good all-purpose card. I mentioned Lotus Bloom decks earlier, and by that I'm talking about combo decks that use Lotus Bloom. Well, without Lotus Bloom and Pentad Prism, Enduring Ideal doesn't go off nearly as quickly, so after sideboard, it's much less of a race because I have Ancient Grudges, and it's them seeing if they can get around my disruption. So if they have a Pentad Prism, it's probably going to die if I have one of these. I like getting Lotus Blooms. I'll get Tops in response to fetch lands, which messes with their ability to search for things. And it also happens to be awesome against Affinity. It's also really important to get Vidalcan Shackles with it against the various levels of blue decks that are out there. I don't know what the current levels are, but it's important to get Shackles. You can't really beat a Shackles in a long game. So Kami is a card that is sort of deceptive looking. It looks like, okay, I want to kill enchantments. Yeah, but so you think Enduring Ideal. Well, that's not why I'm playing this card. We go back to the blue decks with different levels, and also the Tron decks. They all play Threads of Disloyalty after sideboard, and I really can't beat that card in the main deck very well. Sure, I have 4 Vindicates, but that's not going to get it done if they take a Tarmogoyf. That's a gigantic tempo swing. So this card is really intended to kill Threads, the end. It's nice that it's a creature. I've had people suggest Ray of Revelation, but I think having it be a creature is really important. If they don't happen to have a Threads right then, you can just pretend like it's a guy. But yeah, I mean, this is here to kill Threads. And yes, it does happen to make my Enduring Ideal matchup awesome, but that's really a total accident. So the last card in my sideboard is Burrenton Forge Tender, which is a wonderful little piece of technology that I got from Adam Prozac out in Arizona. And it looks really bad, and sure, but protection from red is really good against the straight red deck wins decks. By that I mean mainly red with a lot of creatures like the 12 red 1-drops that I'm playing, and Tarmogoyfs and Quirion Dryad, or maybe Blistering Firecat. Against all those decks, having just a stupid protection from red guy for 1 mana is really good. And he happens to eat a Blistering Firecat on his own, which is great because that card landing is just game over. This card is also awesome against Dredge, and I shouldn't really say awesome, but it's playable against Dredge because it gets their bridges. It's also good against Enduring Ideal again, because they're out to get Octig in a lot of situations, is Pyroclasm or Fire Ice. And this protects you from that, which is great. The other thing that we board this in against is Goblins. And, sure, protection from red guy is great, but the real reason why is that we cannot possibly ever beat a Patriarch Spitting. This deck has better creatures than Goblins, so if we put them on the back foot, they have to chump block a lot, and it's hard for them to get back in the game. But if they stall and they just cast Patriarch Spitting, all those Goblins come back, and basically I'm dead. So our solution to that is to bring in the extra Gadok Teeg and keep the bring in the Forge Tenders. And the only thing that I will use a Forge Tender on is a Gempalm Incinerator that's going at a Gadok Teeg. And that way, hopefully they will not ever be able to play a Patriarch Spitting. Okay, so probably the most non-intuitive thing about this deck is the lands. So, if you'll notice, I have a Steam Vents, which is off color. This is the blue mana here. It's only to make my Gaia's Mites and Tribal Flames better. But all 6 that I'm allowed to play in my four main colors. So there are a couple different ways you can start the game, depending on what gold cards you have in your hand. Because these 3 different pairs of lands make all 4 colors. So which one you get may not look important at first. But here's the thing. We have 3 different gold cards in our deck. They are Gadok Teeg, Lightning Helix, and Vindicate. So this guy's green-white, this guy's red-white, this guy's black-white. And depending on what you plan on doing on turn 2 and 3, that can change which of these pairs of lands you're going to get with your first 2 fetch lands. So for example, if I have a Vindicate that I know I'm going to need to cast, I will not ever get this pair of lands, because I need to draw another white or black source to make the Vindicate happen. If I get either this or this, make white here, black here, white there, and any random third land in my deck will cast the Vindicate. And this also changes when you sideboard. Sometimes you'll take out one of the 3 gold cards that I was talking about. Sometimes you'll cut one of these, and that'll mean that you can always get the land combination over here that keeps you from playing that card easily because it's not in your deck anymore. So that can free up your land choices. The other thing is sometimes you board in the Terminate, which is another gold card to think about, and that means you don't want to get the Blood Crypt if you can avoid it, because that only makes red and black. This doesn't make red or black. You need another land of a specific kind to play your Terminate. So that's probably the most technically tricky thing. I think the thing this weekend that really surprised me about the deck was how hard it actually is to play if you're out of practice with just attacking and blocking. But my round is actually starting, it looks like, so I think I need to run real fast or something bad's going to happen to me. So